Okay kids, welcome back to the shop. In this video, I'm going to build a guard for the table saw. Now, I already traced out the template. I didn't video that, so I'm just transferring the template onto this black piece of plastic that I had laying around. So sit back, enjoy, watch the video. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Alright, now that I got it traced out, I head over to the little bandsaw. This is my wood bandsaw. This is perfect for cutting out this plastic. So I got both pieces cut out. Obviously the guard has two sides. And now I'm over at the sander and let's just clean these things up, make them symmetrical.
Okay guys, I screwed up. I lost this piece here. And what it looked like, it looked like this. Okay, so it was a piece of steel that went in like that. Okay, and it had a chamfer on it. And now this thing rotates with the blade. So the idea of the chamfer was when the blade rotated, this would rotate like this, and then you wouldn't have, if you didn't chamfer it, you'd have interference, right? Because you're pushing your wood through, okay? And then this bracket, it bolted on through this bolt. It just bolted like that, okay? And then it had an L-shaped bracket on it like that. Had an L-shaped bracket on it like that, okay? So it bolted to the bottom of it, came up, and it had a slot so you could adjust it, right? So it had a slot. It was L-shaped, right? Like a channel. I mean an angle. And then you can adjust it out so it would clear the blade. And it was thinner than the blade. So when you'd push the wood through, right? You wouldn't, both sides, you couldn't have interference. You can't have the wood hitting this or hitting, you had something like this, the whole defense. And then this part here had a hole in it. It might have had a slot, but I wasn't too sure. Then it had a hole in it with a piece that would attach. It would attach to here, okay? And then it would articulate. So the piece I'm missing that I lost, it's here somewhere, unless I threw it away, I'm missing this. So I gotta make that. That sucks. I just spent probably an hour and a half trying to find this thing. So now I gotta try to make it. It's just gonna be a hassle.
I'm gonna be using a scrap piece of metal. So I need to square it up. That's all I'm doing here. I'm at the milling machine. I have my end mill and just squaring up a piece of scrap stock.
Alright, so I'm kind of eyeballing this a little bit. So that's measuring 28 30 seconds. So that means 30 seconds would be there. Come back to 28 30 seconds. That's an eighth of an inch, right? 4 30 seconds. So we're going to come down an eighth of an inch. That'll be the edge of this hole.
Alright, we're at the milling machine. I'm going to counter bore this hole. Once I get a counter bored, I will drill it for a through hole so I can mount it to the table saw. So we got to be careful here because we're drilling through this piece. It's 1.5 inches, and that's I think 1/4 inch bit, a little bit bigger. So we don't want to break the bit and scrap this part.
Okay, as you can see, I already did a test fit. This fits in there good. It just has to countersink a little bit. I'm not so sure about those threads. We might need more. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. This has to be parallel, right? Parallel with the table. So I'm just going to eyeball it because remember, the bracket and the guard's going to be on here. So when you tilt the table, this has to tilt. So let me show you So tilt the table. So just like that. All right. So now we don't have hardly anything sticking up here, which is great. So I'm gonna just do a little. I'm gonna do a little mark there and then whack that.
Back at the mill, I have the part set up at a 45-degree angle. I really didn't mark it. I just have to make a few passes here. Okay guys, I hope you can see this. It's machined. I have that bolted back on. It's sort of squared up pretty good. It's not exact. That's good enough because we're just going to do a test here. We're going to flip this down. There, that's all the way. And that is actually there. That's past 45 right there. And I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's use this as a straight edge. But so that's hitting the table, so that means everything's above the table. So when that comes through, it'll be perfect. All right. So there, we're in good shape that way. So now that we have all that nonsense taken care of, now we can finally start making the bracket for the guard. I find a piece of aluminum that's a little narrower than the blade. Remember, we need to have relief here. So I mark it 1.5 inches, head over to the bandsaw, cut it to width. This is very hard to video. So what I did was I put the straight edge here. I put that straight edge, and then I took this and I just came over this way. So I'm thinking, so roughly 1 3/4 is to this. So I'm going to go 1 5/8, and that'll give me, I believe, enough wiggle room. I mark that off 1 5/8. Let's bend to 90, and I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, we're at the finger break. I put the metal in there. We're going to go like this. Now here's the thing. When I bend this, you're going to move with it. Let's see what happens. Get that at 45. Huh? There's a different view. It looks pretty good. This is going to go just like that. Oh, that's not bad at all. Before I drill holes in the aluminum mounting bracket, I need to drill holes in this metal mounting bracket first, so I can get all the holes to line up properly. This is a 1/4 thread that I'm drilling for. Alright, let's get this thing tapped, and let's be careful. We don't want to break any taps. This is always nerve-wracking to me. This was harder than it should have been, and I should have stopped right here. I found out later that I used the wrong drill bit. My drill bits were out of whack. They weren't in the index correctly, and I didn't check the size before I used it. And who didn't see that coming? And yes, there was no cursing, because I knew it was going to happen. I spent way too much time trying to get this tap out. I try a punch. I actually have tap extractors. That didn't work. And I should have just moved on right out of the gate, because the whole location isn't that important. But, you know, I'm being hard-headed here, and I try to remove it. Like I said, I probably spent an hour trying to do this. Finally, I just scrapped the idea. I drill another hole next to this one. Okay, can you tell which one was done with the milling machine using the digital readout indicating side to side, front to back, getting it just perfect, and which was used with a combination square?
like, huh, that can barely fit on there, and marked with this. See? That looks like crap. But I was trying to save time, and that's what you get when you take shortcuts.
All right, so now I got to transfer the holes, right, the center of the hole, onto the piece, onto the bracket, onto the aluminum bracket. Stick with me here. So what I had to do was I actually made transfer punches to go into that piece of metal. Now I do have the video on how I made it, but this video is getting way too long, so that's going to have to be another one. I already have that drilled in. You guys, I don't know if you could see that, and you're just going to watch. I'm going to put it on there and just give it a whack with a hammer, and it'll transfer the holes, the punch marks, to the aluminum.
See the marks? There's a mark there and there's a mark there. You could actually see it. Huh. It's funny. Let's see if we can make it a little better. I don't know. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, we can live with that.
All right, I'm going to get this bolted on. Remember, I'm using 1/4-inch bolts. I'm going to fly through this process, and you're going to see why in a minute.
All right, so that's the plan. So now what we have to do is we have to slot that so I can adjust that in and out.
This is the point when I realized this wasn't going to work. The bent piece at the bottom, that 90 degree, would have to be a separate piece than the upright. So you know what I did? I headed off to the 3D printer. You know we have to have some plastic on this thing.
Well, I think you guessed it. I was getting pretty frustrated with that process. So I went to Fusion 360 in the 3D printer and I printed this out. And actually, after I made that piece, I realized that the piece that I lost, that I'm really jacked about, did look like this. It did have this little stub up that accepted the upright. So this will end up being bolted on. I'm not sure I'm using this one, it's a little bent, but it'll bolt on like that, and then the guard will bolt onto here. So as you can see, I did the same thing as I was saying. I did the same thing with the 3D print as I was doing with that, as I was doing with the aluminum piece. These are just a 1/4-inch bolts, just like that, and then we'll be able to move it in and out. And this, yeah, will give me a ton of room, or enough room, I think. All right, so that's the plan. I say we get this put on. I'm gonna have to cut these down. I don't have any smaller 1/4-inch bolts. I say we get this put on, and then we will fabricate this. Like I said, it's gonna go on this side, and that is, oh, it didn't break, so that'll be more than sturdy enough. I did print this 100% infill, so it is sturdy.
So I got this thing drilled for the 1/4-inch bolts, and I got the upright attached to the 3D print.
Okay, there's a rough fit, I'm gonna call it that. And if we take the straight edge, there's a little bit of gap. And if I put the straight edge over here, there's a little bit of gap. Now the good thing is, if you guys can see it, the carbide tip blade, these tips are out past that blade, right? Obviously. So that's plenty of clearance. So now what we need to do is, you know, I had to cut that, so I'm not so sure that's going to be guess it could be the height I need, because this thing's going to be out here, right? It's going to be like that. So I need to have a piece go from here to here, and then I need to stabilize this, because this is going to go up and down. So that's the next thing I have to do. Let's see here. Now, we do have to make sure. Perfect. All right. That's all I have to make sure. I just have to make sure that, yeah, this is above this, which it is. So I'm going to put a hole here, and then I got to make, you know, a piece that goes here, attaches that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you, I'm so jacked that I had this, not this piece. I had this piece here. This all came with it, and I lost it. So I got, who knows, I got a day of trying to get this, just to get this far. Who didn't see that coming? Pause. Well, after messing around with this for a while, I went to Fusion in a 3D printer, and I printed this. Now, I didn't use infill, so that's why this is a little wonky. I hope a bolt will go in there. Let's check that. If not, I'll have to drill it out. So these are 1/4 inch. Yeah, that'll work. I printed those, I think 0.3, and so the idea, what this is going to do is this is going to go on to here, okay? And then it's going to be tough to do with one hand, but then this is going to go on here, right? Get the idea? We'll bolt it on, and then this will go up and down like that. I did print out these spacers. So I did notice on one of the, I don't know if it was this one, or I think on my other table saw, is these moved independently. See, I'm not going to be able to do that. So it's just going to be, you know, these are going to just move together. So that's just how it's going to have to be. I have these spacers I'll put in there just for rigidity, but I would have to have a separate arm, or I'd have some other. I'm not doing it. Most likely it's going to get taken off anyway, which it shouldn't, but I just want, when I give this to him, I want to be as safe as possible. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So all right, so now let's lay this out, which is probably going to be right there. And this is okay that this is a little flimsy, because when the board's coming through here, you know, if it's off a little bit, this will help, you know, it won't bind. It won't bind the board or the blade, okay? So let's mark this, and then drill it. Then I can mount this stuff. All right. All right. It's all right. It's all right. I gotta tear this apart. Okay, that's the idea. Now, just so you guys know, I do have nylon nuts to put on this and this, so it will still articulate when I tighten it down. None of this stuff is real tight, so it's going to be moving around a little bit, but you get the idea. Let's get these.
I'm going to zip through this part because this video is getting kind of long. And see, I'm just going to mark this here. It's a no-brainer. It's just kind of guesstimating. So I'll mark it, drill the guard, the black pieces, and bolt the spacers together. Alexa.
Okay. All right, this is moving around like I wanted to. Let's do a cut real quick. Just have that set on 0. See what happens.
Hold on here. I mean, this thing worked perfect, but it sucks. You can't see the blade. You have to be able to see the blade. I thought this was going to work, but you know what? We got to make it out of plexiglass.
Well, looky what I did. I did not like that black cover, that black guard. I mean, it was well made and everything, but we need to be able to see the blade. All right, so I went and bought some plexiglass, so let me show you this again. Safety glasses, earphones, head plugs. You ready? Push. And that worked pretty good. So now this is something else I realized I didn't show you is, look, remember I said that's why I had to do that? So when we tilt it, the whole guard tilts. And look at that. Okay? Look at there. How about them apples, huh? So believe it or not, that wasn't the guard, it was the wood because I cut such a small piece. And it did get caught up on that, but I just gave it a little push and it worked good. So I'm gonna hit that with a file. I'm gonna just clean that up. I'm gonna make that more of a pointed edge for when we're making angled cuts. But as far as 90s, it worked perfect. Yeah, this is gonna work out good. All right, guys. I don't know. I think it worked out good. And as I stated earlier, Art did call me and said he found the guard for it. So this is just gonna be this is gonna end up being temporary. When he brings me the guard, I will attach it. This all worked out well. The machining, listen. Perfect. All right, guys, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.